every single athlete has to answer for themselves. Is it worth it to me? And I would hope that and I think, I don't know if I've heard this or not, that, if a player doesn't want to play, that they get to keep going to school and they get to keep their scholarship. The bigger question for some of them would be, and this would probably be from an NCAA standpoint, can they get a redshirt year, or can they keep that year of eligibility?
And do they get to keep their scholarship moving forward?
Right. So
I think their scholarships are year to year. At least
they are year to year, and that's a thing that people don't know. It's not a 4-year or 5-year contract. It's year to year, because you got to keep up your grades, you got to keep up your
stay out of trouble.
You got to stay out of trouble, your citizenship, all that kind of stuff. And, and there are times when we've heard that, players get their scholarships taken just because they're not very good,
right.
And somebody else has come along to get their scholarship.
Sure.
So, that happens. I'd like to think that in this particular case, if it's a voluntary workout and you're on campus under these conditions, it truly is a voluntary workout.
Right.
If you say, you know what, I'm not comfortable being here, that you can walk away, and a coach isn't going to look at you, badly.
That, on the premise, that sounds about right. But little Johnny's not there.
Somewhere in the country, that's the case.
Yeah.
Right. There's a coach out there somewhere who's saying, if he's not here, he's not committed. Well, I'm telling you, if my kid felt unsafe and he walked off campus, and he got his scholarship pulled, or a coach, you know what? There would be all kinds of all kinds of hell being raised there.
Sure. And it happens on the day, not on the daily, but it happens a lot.
Sure, it could.
Yeah, no question about that. And then just in the Julius Holtz little kid, the football program,
the Youth Football and Spirit Federation
has called it a quits. They're not going to do it.
Canceled the season. Well, Javier Morales, who's always Johnny on the spot on youth sports, with the work he and Andy do, has written a short story, and it looked like a number of teams had already decided not to play.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another team that said, well, if people aren't going to play, we're going to play teams out of Phoenix. And Julius Holtz just said, that's it. We're not having it. We had him on a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he seemed pretty confident.
That's how things change,
right.
Or how fast things change in a matter of 2 weeks.
Right. He seemed pretty confident that there was going to be a season and that they had things in place that would allow them to have a season. But, this is starting to, the way things have gone over the last few weeks. And now, is this going to percolate up?
Right.
Is my question. Okay, the youth football is not going to play. We're going to have Dustin Peace from CDO on, and maybe he can give us an idea of what's being talked about at the high school level.
Sure. And he already has gone on the record through a tweet to saying the season should be delayed. Obviously, in that time since the tweet, things are going to be delayed.
Right. And one of the things that that's in play here is parents.
No question.
Yes, at the college level, those guys have parents, but they're all 18 years and older. Mm-hmm. They're adults. They get to decide. Of course, they may listen to the parents. They may not listen to the parents. But when you're talking youth football and then you're talking high school football, the parents get involved in the decision making. And you may have a star quarterback who says, Mom, I got to play. And Mom's going to say, the heck you are.
Right.
And so I'm interested to hear from Dustin. What's he hearing out there? What's he hearing from the parents? What's he hearing from the coaches? What's he hearing from the players?
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole nother element into that.
And you have two sides, either play or don't play, both strong sentiments on both sides.
Right. And again, we've talked about it here. If my kid was a high school football player,
what's the best answer?
I just don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. I don't know where I'd be on that.
I think it would be, depends on the sport.
It depends on the sport, and also depends on the school,
mm-hmm.
the coach,
mm-hmm.
maybe the school district. It depends on a lot of things. And I think it's really, I just don't know where I would be.
Well, we'll talk to Dustin about a lot of different things. I want to get your take because you know how I feel about the season. I don't think it's going to be a complete season. I haven't really talked. Well, you're still optimistic. I know. I'm going to talk to you about this every day because we'll get to that at 6:45.
I keep sliding towards less of a season, Steve, I really do, and I hate to, but you have to be realistic. And again, when you start thinking about lives here, there was an Illinois, a doctor in Illinois who tweeted today that if college football goes on, he said 3 to 5 college football players will die of the virus.
then you know what you do.
Then you
you
can't
don't
play.
You
Right?
don't play.
Can you play if
no
that's
way.
the case?
If one,
Right.
but there's three.
Right.
Let's take a break. Get in touch with Dustin Peace on the other side here on 1030 The Voice.
Trusted local news and talk all day, every day. 1030 The Voice.
There's a place in our house.
For 70 years, Benjamin Supply has been keeping Tucson flowing. Hygiene is our business. We help you achieve extreme clean. Minimize germ spreading with a hands-free sensor faucet. Forget the paper panic with a washlet seat. And speaking of waterworks, a big thanks to plumbers for their essential efforts during this health crisis. Shop our downtown showroom by appointment. Call us at 777-7000 or see all the products online at benjaminsupply.com.
Thanks to Benjamin Plumbing Supply.
These days, most families are concerned with having the right insurance coverage. Protecting your family, home, auto, and other valuable possessions can be challenging and sometimes expensive. Crest Insurance gives you flexible options and solutions while saving you money. Insurance is not one size fits all, and at Crest, we find the coverage that's best for you and your family. Visit us online at www.crestins.com or call us toll free at 888-881-5765.
It's a great way to start your day. Hi, it's Hugh Hewitt. Join me weekday mornings for the Hugh Hewitt Show, 10 to noon weekdays on 1030 The Voice. I'll have the news you must have, the analysis you need, great interviews with today's top newsmakers, and we'll toss in a great healthy dose of good humor and compelling conversation to get you going. Let's start the day together with the Hugh Hewitt Show.
News from inside the Beltway. The Hugh Hewitt Show. Weekday mornings from 10 to noon on 1030 The Voice. Trusted local news and talk.
Trusted local news and talk. 1030 The Voice.
Hey, welcome back to Eye on the Ball here on 1030 The Voice. I'm Steve Rivera alongside co-host Jay Gonzalez. And on the phone now we have CDO, head football coach Dustin Peace. How you doing, neighbor?
Hey, yeah, neighbor, yeah. Doing well, sir. Thanks for having me on. Steve and Jay, and supporting high school football and high school sports and all sports. But pleasure to be on here. It's my highlight of my day.
Sorry to hear that, but welcome. But welcome. Hey,
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago or a week ago, you tweeted out some very profound information on Twitter saying that let's kind of delay the season. I don't know if the powers that be were listening, but they listened.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's feeling that pressure of, we were getting closer and closer to our original start date of July 27th and getting ready to play a game, August 21st. And I think you had a lot of programs really trying to make contact with their kids. And we still don't have anything in place. And, to me, what's difficult is a lot has been lost already, with high school sports altogether. But, yeah, I put that tweet out there just because, normally I don't use social media as a factor, but I think coaches need to speak up on how they feel in this scenario because so much is at stake for our boys that we put so much time into, So put it out there, and it got a little bit of attention, but thanks for allowing me to come out and express some things here today.
So, Dustin, with the announcement yesterday that school's been pushed back a couple of weeks, has there been anything come out as any decision made related to if school's starting later, sports are starting later, how much later? Are there any dates? Or are they still kicking it around? Where are we on that?
Yeah, so as soon as yesterday was a big day. So obviously the governor put out that, but also the AIA later in the afternoon put out that we're not going to start our season, which was supposed to start July 27th till August 17th. So that's 3 weeks pushed back. In that announcement, they said we're going to relook at schedules. There's surveys out to the principals to determine, how they want to handle this pushback. How do we do it? Do we just take it all from fall, or do we push it back with all the sports? So that happened yesterday. So August 17th is when we're supposed to hit the field, but part of the issue right now is our summer rules via the AIA are determined by the site. So each school district gets to determine if kids are on the field via phase 1, phase 2, or however they want to do it. So right now, there are programs still practicing, but a lot since yesterday I found out have started canceling for the last 2 weeks. So there are some still practicing in very limited forms, but yeah, that date got pushed back 3 whole weeks. So that's pretty detrimental. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
So you get the news in March, at least the schools do. We're going to cancel some activities. We might be back in April, and that was that. What were you thinking, oh, okay, I feel sorry for the current sports, but back in the fall we'll be ready to go. 5 months later, here you are.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, I did a little thing, and I wanted to bring this up on the show, a little calculation 2 years ago where I calculated all the hours that we put in when we basically start in January till the end of the season, in November, hopefully. But basically 5% of all of that time represented Friday nights. And I think what we're forgetting, not forgetting, but what's been devastation is we've lost 5 months of time just with our kids, kids being kids going to camp, coaches' connections. Like, the thing I miss the most is, I love to, get out there and play and practice stuff, but I haven't got a chance to really connect with our kids. Each group's a new group, and we're losing all that time day by day, and that's something that they just won't get back. So granted, we're all hung up on this 5% of Friday nights of time. We've lost over half, if not, 2/3 of our time already. So I feel for our seniors and all sports that are going in the fall, and obviously the spring sports that happen as well. So, yeah, we've already been hit 5 months back, and I've just been communicating with our kids the best we can, but it's been tough, and I can't imagine to be in their shoes, without a doubt.
Dustin Peace, the head coach of CDO football, here with us. Dustin, Steve and I, before we a few minutes ago, we were just talking about the parent factor in this. What are you hearing from parents? Where do they sit? I'm imagining there's some dads out there saying we're playing, and then other people are saying no, we're not. So what are you hearing from parents?
Yeah, it's what's kind of been interesting about this whole pandemic is a lot of collaboration has been happening in lieu of all this. Superintendents working together. Even us head coaches have been talking a lot more, just trying to, save our season and talk about our sports. So it's been empowering in that sense. But talking to a lot of other coaches around the city, there's been various things where it's been as quiet as can be. We haven't heard a thing. And then some parents are petitioning to the superintendent that they want to get back on the field. I've been very grateful that our parents have just been supportive. I really haven't heard much from them because ultimately they know that coaches don't have control, principals don't really have control, and I don't know that anybody really has control of any of this situation. So I'm grateful on our end at CDO. We've had parents that have been very understanding, but yeah, just sitting back since we kind of got released, in June or whatever it was, teams were allowed to go. You see people just hitting the parks and they're ready to go, and then you see other people that are not wanting to do that. So it'll be very interesting to see what the younger parents are going to do. I think some of the older parents, I would, if I had to throw a number out there, I'd say 90% of kids and parents are going to go, but that's still, if we have 5 less kids on our program, that's a big hit for us. So, but yeah, there's a lot of, and you can't fault either side, I think, just because there's not a whole lot of, there's a lot of information out there, but people choose to believe what they want to believe, and that's where they side. So it's kind of hard to convince that other side what's right and wrong, but yeah.
Well, and you're at a school, I can easily say that you have kids who have chances to play at the next level, whether it's D1 or D2 or whatever. So that's going to affect their decisions as well.
Oh, without a doubt. I think of an individual we have right now. His name's Chase Randall. He he came over for Ironwood Ridge last year, and they were going through some coaching change. Anytime you go through a coaching change, you kind of miss spring recruiting. Some coaches, moving out and all that stuff now. And then he missed spring recruiting this year because we weren't on campus at all. He's a great, great player, but nobody knows about him, and he's just my example, but this could be across the city without a doubt. And he only got to play 5 or 6 games last year, but yeah, he's missing all these opportunities, not only just the spring recruiting, but all the camps that the colleges put on throughout the summer. All those have gone away. So yeah, the trickle down effect is huge. With obviously college, and it goes for spring sports as well. All those kids may be coming back. How does it impact the scholarships they give out in the future? It's just the snowball effect kind of starts happening, and it definitely impacts our kids.
Well, and I don't know if you heard, just before we went on the air, it was announced that Tucson Youth Football has canceled its season. So now you've probably got some kids that are ready to go into high school who are going to lose a full year. And when you're learning how to play the game and going through all that, even there's an impact on you guys when youth football doesn't play, don't you think?
Oh, without a doubt. It was interesting because I watched, when they first had and you guys were talking about Mr. Holt being out on a couple weeks ago and talking about how they made a decision to go through with it. And then that's how fast things are turning the other direction with all this. And I got a feeling because even though middle school football isn't as big as TYF, obviously they only play 6 games, but they're talking about that not being a competition in this year as well. They're talking about that maybe doing inter-squad scrimmages but not doing competition. We had a meeting last week to discuss that, so you might see all of that level of football kind of gone. That's definitely impactful, I feel, for those kids and families because it, but you really don't know what's right, and I think Mr. Holt, honestly, I'll say it, I think it's the safe thing to do at that age. It really is, with so many factors that colleges haven't even figured out. You got Arizona that opened up, like you guys were talking about earlier in the show, and now they're kind of closed, but then now open, still open but not letting more in. So, yeah, it's, if they don't got it figured out with the amount of resources that they have, we haven't figured it out. TYF is going to have even more difficulty making that all work.
Let me ask you, just hypothetically now, because we don't know, if there was no season, what is lost in terms of talent? Let's say you don't play for a year or you don't play for a few months. How much is lost from the kids who are pretty good or want to be better? You know what I'm saying? Because they're not playing. And when you don't play, you don't get any better.
Yeah, part of, the thing that I think concerns all of us more than the fact of whether they're getting better or they're not getting better is the fact that injury plays a key component in that. They're not moving the same way. They're not training the same way. It's just a huge factor. And then here's a kid that's been, even though he's been working out at his house for the last 5 months on his own, he's going to come out and get some little injury because we just haven't been doing things that's going to put him on the sideline. That's just going to be devastating. So there's definitely that factor without a doubt, injury-wise. But, yeah, skill-wise, I'm already thinking if we start practicing, we have 4 weeks before we got to play our game, like we're going to have minimal plays in when before we would, you got the spring ball, you got summer, you got camp. We'd be pretty elaborative and our stuff would be in. Now we're going to run, a handful of plays. So, yeah, skill set is an issue, but I think injury is even a bigger thing to consider as we move forward.
Yeah, I want you to stay around for the other side real quick because I've had some high school football coaches, and I know you've coached a lot of – you've been at CDO more than 10 years, obviously, as an assistant as well, right?
Yeah, so I've been this will be my 12th year as head coach and 19th year there altogether.
Right, so I wanted to – you've had some great talent. Carey, Martinez, Robbins, correct?
Tevis, yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Catalano, yeah. We've had some guys.
Let's kind of, because you've seen the history in the recent history. Let's go reminisce about some good old days stuff. Seeing those guys play. Did you ever imagine these guys, Martinez? Who in the world Talk about the good old days with those kids that you've seen and you've coached. Once we take a break here, you ready to do that?
We need to take a break. Yeah. We'll come back and let's talk some football.
Yeah.
CBS News at the top and bottom of every hour. 1030 The Voice, Tucson's trusted local news and talk.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Stocks rallied on the final day of the second quarter as a positive reading on consumer sentiment offset worries about the coronavirus and U.S.-China trade tensions. The Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped 217. The S&P gained 47. The Nasdaq climbed 185. Fed Chair Jerome Powell told Congress today that controlling COVID-19 is vital to the economic recovery. While the economic recovery is welcome, Powell told a House panel it presents new challenges. Efficiency and a surge in health equipment deliveries boosted FedEx quarterly results. Profits fell from a year ago but still beat estimates. Home deliveries, which are less profitable than those to business, weighed on the bottom line. With demand for big jets in a slump, Airbus is cutting back. The plane maker will slash its global workforce by 15,000, mostly in France and Germany. Airbus has about 1,100 U.S. employees. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
CBS News Update. This is not a red letter day in the coronavirus outbreak. According to a Reuters tally, there were more than 46,000 new cases today, the largest single-day increase since the pandemic began. And Dr. Anthony Fauci worries we could get up to 100,000 cases a day.
Well, I think the numbers speak for themselves. Although we do have a number of parts of the country that are doing well, I'm very concerned about what's going on right now, particularly in the 4 states that are accounting for about 50% of the new infections.
California is one of those states. CBS's Carter Evans.
The July 4th weekend is a big test. Can Californians reduce their risky behavior? Well, here in LA, they're canceling fireworks shows. They're closing the beaches. The sheriff even says they're going to ticket cars parked this weekend along Pacific Coast Highway. And now the governor is hinting at a new stay-at-home order.
CBS News Update, I'm Pam Coulter.
Time to update those old kitchen cabinets? Call the Window Depot today. The Window Depot is not only the #1 warehouse for windows and doors, we now have a great selection of kitchen and bath cabinets at Tucson's best prices. The Window Depot is Tucson's top spot for granite and quartz countertops to finish the new kitchen or the replacement of that old worn-out Formica. So call us today at 290-8545 or 622-6430. The Window Depot, windows, doors, granite, and new kitchens.
It's your town. Get up and get involved.
Hey, it's Chris from Wake Up Tucson. We'll see you for Wednesday's show. Steve Morris calling in from Washington, D.C. We have Jonathan Butcher from the Goldwater Institute talking about the reopening of public schools, which the governor just delayed another 2 weeks. And then Wednesday, Food Wednesday with Baja Cafe on Broadway. Wake Up Tucson.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9 on 1030 The Voice. Trusted local news and talk.
This is The Voice, 1030, Tucson's trusted news and talk.
Hey, welcome back to Eye on the Ball here on 1030 The Voice. I'm Steve Rivera alongside Jay Gonzalez. And on the phone, we have CDO head football coach Dustin Peast. We talked a lot about football, but let's kind of reminisce a little about some of the great people you've had. In fact, there's a couple that were on the Sugar Skulls, correct? We talk about how old we're getting and we can't remember stuff.
Robert
Metz. Yeah.
Metz. God, he's going to be. I hope he's not listening because he's going to be so upset with me.
But you've had a lot.
I love the guy.
You've had a lot of good guys up there.
He's actually a coach for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been a coach for us for the last 3 years. He's had time to go full time this year. But yeah, it was really exciting last year when he got onto the Skulls in the first game. We took about 25 people to the game, CDO people, and it it was really cool to see him out there on the field, and then obviously the boys get to see him every day at practice. So it's just really, really cool for him. So, yeah, he's been one of, we're kind of like a CDO family where kids go away, and when they come back, they coach for us. Metz came back, coached for us. Josh Robbins is our defensive coordinator. We just have that. We have that family-oriented program, and it's just awesome to develop different relationships with those guys because, Robert Metz is getting married here shortly and invited me to his wedding, and I'm just so thrilled to be part of that circle, and that cycle within him. So memory lane's always a good place to go down when I've been so fortunate to be at CDO with all these good kids and coaches.
Well, Metz was one of my favorite guys over there. Just a cheerful guy, and he had told us he was getting married, and this thing that we're in the middle of, it's cost him an opportunity. He was working as the starting middle linebacker for the team, and he was going to he was getting a lot of playing time. He was going to get a good look, and it's unfortunate, and you just don't know when you're in that situation. What's the next step? So it's unfortunate for him because he was going to have a real opportunity with the Sugar Skulls this year.
Yeah, it's terrible. Definitely difficult for him. I know he's been working hard, and but what's so resilient about him is he's still working. He's already talked about the next year, so I'm excited for that, to see that when that happens.
I wish I were young like that. I could think about next year. Hey, so let me tell you the teams, because I'm up in that area, Kadeem, Martinez, Robbins. I think Josh Robbins was on that team. I guess you guys, how far did you guys go? Did you guys win it? No, right?
Yeah, so 2009.
God, so long ago.
Yeah. You actually did our, what did you do? You did our, like a little picture frame thing, outline. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we had quite a talented group on there. We had, Josh Robbins went to U of A. Jared Tevis ended up walking on and then obviously having a great career for U of A. Kadeem was on that team of 2009. Then we had David Catalano, who went to San Jose State and then played his last year at U of A, but hurt his knee. So we had a lot of good, and I'm missing a lot of kids. But
Martinez?
Yeah. Well, Martinez wasn't on 2009, but he was on the next year, 2010, that he was a part of Kadeem and all them on that year. So, so 2009 we were that 14-0 team, and then 2010 it was a rough one. We were 13-1. We lost the last game of the year, so it was tough. So, but yeah, it's been cool to see all those guys. As all those guys are almost married now. Kadeem's got married he's having his fourth kid here soon, and Jared Tevis is married. So it's been a long time since that. Martinez is married with a kid. Yeah, I mean it's been really cool to see and still connect with those guys. Quite often, honestly, those are probably those names that you brought up. I probably talked to the most out of those, just because the connection's still there with football and things of that sort. So, but it's been real cool to see them now, grown up, old and living life.
We have Dustin Pease, the head football coach at CDO on the radio with us. Dustin, I'm a local guy, so I've grown up here, and I don't know what's in the water over there or something like that, but CDO has just always churned out, that level of athlete, and not just a few. All schools get a few. I went to Saguaro High School. We were, we turned out a lot of baseball players. My particular class had a bunch of guys that played major college sports, but whether it's baseball or football or all the sports over there, the girls softball players. I think weren't the Fowlers at CDO.
Yeah.
What is it? What is there? What's in the community over there that you're getting you get that kind of that level of athlete?
It's being here 19 years now, over half my life. Well, actually, half my life I've been there at CDO. We've had more ups than we definitely have downs, and I think we have a good balanced mix of a community now where we have some with high economic people, middle economic, even some low economic. And so we just have a good mix of that, good mix of parent involvement, but not too much parent involvement. You know what I mean? Not
Right.
too little. So
Yes, we know what you mean.
We know what you mean.
So yeah, but that's all critical when it comes to those kind of things. But yeah, when you start naming those things off, and you even left, we all probably left some things out, but you got the softball and what they've done, obviously baseball. We've had a good share. Even in 2009 and 10, our soccer team was state champs, and we had some guys that played professional soccer. So it's definitely a special place, and it's been cool for us to still have some success and produce those kind of players when, Ironwood Ridge opened up in the early 2000s and kind of cut the school in half. And that kind of just played a factor in the kind of kids you get and all that, and the amount of kids you get. CDO used to be a huge school, over 3,000 kids. Now we're, 1,600, 1,500, so kind of cut things in half. So, and we're a lot of open enrollment because of the older homes in that area and stuff like that. But, yeah, it's been great being there and, connecting with our guys and, getting to see, Blake Martinez play on Sundays. It's been awesome for our kids and our staff. I actually went to 3 games last year. It's been really cool experiencing that. I was supposed to go over to his house and see his new facility. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but they built the whole facility of indoor football field his dad did in Oro Valley, and haven't been able to do that obviously because it's just social distancing. But I know he's excited to be on the Giants now, so that'll be interesting.
Dustin, let me ask you this, because this is, Blake is one of those guys that, I get it. Stanford scholarship versus an Arizona scholarship. I mean, was it strictly that the Stanford thing, or, he was one of those that I felt, how did Arizona miss on a guy like Blake Martinez?
And to be honest with you, in the long run, Stanford was the best place for him because of where he's at. But they would have, him and his family would have highly considered it just because they are from Tucson. They grew up here, grandfather, everybody here, dad has a business. We're all Tucson kind of people. But he really didn't get a sniff until the spring of his senior season. That was after the transition from Coach Stoops to Coach Rodriguez. Mm-hmm. So as soon as Coach Rod came in, they tried to come in January or February, and by then it was just too late. He had committed then to Stanford, and a high caliber athlete at that level getting attention in January or January when February's coming around, that's not going to fly. You know
right.
what I mean? That's just so. I mean, and Arizona wasn't the only school. I'll tell you this: everybody said that he was too slow. A lot of schools said he was too slow to play football at that level.
Tells you what they know.
But, yeah, I mean, and it was kind of interesting because when he went to the camp at Stanford, he called me after they went to that camp and they offered him, and then he, within a couple of days or whatever, they accepted. Even Dad, till this day, I have a pretty good relationship with his dad. Said, man, you guys you're taking that scholarship. That's where we're going. That's what we're doing. And
sure,
of course.
One of the best events I ever been to was the Rose Bowl when they played Iowa, and Christian McCaffrey was on that team. And man, it was just, you got to see what Stanford was really about, who they are, and it was just really cool. And he's obviously where he's at because of that step. So that was awesome.
We have just a couple minutes left. I don't want to have you pick out your best, your favorite son as a coach. So I want you to talk about maybe some of the great players you had to play against in your 19 years as a coach.
Well, that we had to play against?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's kind of easy. Obviously, Bijan Robinson was having to play him basically 4 years. We got to see him when he was a freshman through senior. He's a different. We got to see him this last year. It was a wow factor that, I'm a fan myself because I'm a Tucson boy. I played football here as well. I can't wait to see what he does at Texas, and there's a good chance that he's he's going to play on Sundays. I'll just say that flat out. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But will he be a Heisman Trophy candidate? Is the caliber of kid that kind of kid is, without a doubt.
Wow. So
Yeah.
he's the real deal.
He is. Yeah. We were proud. I think it was his sophomore year. We held him, made a fumble once, and we were excited about that. But this year we did okay against him. But he wore us out. And the moves that you see, and for us, I got to see who I think is one of the best running backs of all time in high school, Kadeem Carey, every day. To be able to see what Bijan did, in the game against us, and the stops and the starts that he can do is just it's a different level.
Well, not surprising, of course. Thanks, Dustin. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I thank you guys as well. Like I said, highlight of my day, and anything else comes up, let me know. But thank you for all the support, and good luck to both of you guys as you guys move forward.
Well, let's get you on again as we get closer to something happening
When
here.
something breaks, yeah.
Right on. Yeah,
All right.
will do.
Thanks a bunch,
guys.
Dustin.
Thanks, Coach. That was Dustin Peach from CDO. Let's take our last break here on 1030 Voice and come right back.
Your source for trusted local news and talk. 1030 The Voice.
There's a place in our house.
For 70 years, Benjamin Supply has been keeping Tucson flowing. Hygiene is our business. We help you achieve extreme clean. Minimize germ spreading with a hands-free sensor faucet. Forget the paper panic with a washlet seat. And speaking of waterworks, a big thanks to plumbers for their essential efforts during this health crisis. Shop our downtown showroom by appointment. Call us at 777-7000 or see all the products online at benjaminsupply.com.
Thanks to Benjamin Plumbing Supply.
Go local. Make the switch. At Hughes Federal Credit Union, we offer customized solutions and get you what you need faster. Like our quick and easy credit cards and auto loans. All done online from start to finish. Save time using mobile banking, bill pay, mobile deposit, and mobile pay with just a few clicks. Live large, accessing 30,000 plus surcharge-free ATMs and free debit card choices. Make the switch to Hughes today. Visit hughesfcu.org/switch. Certain restrictions apply, insured by NCUA.
Hey Tucson, it's me, Dave Ramsey, on 1030 The Voice. Tired of being normal? Normal is living paycheck to paycheck. Normal is student loans and credit cards. On my show, we'll teach you to be weird. We teach you how to live on less than you make, save for a rainy day, pay off debt like there's no tomorrow. Normal stinks. Weird is awesome. It's the Dave Ramsey Show. Weekdays live at 1 on 1030 The Voice. Trusted local news and talk.
Tucson's source for trusted news and talk. 1030 The Voice.
Hey, welcome back to Eye on the Ball here on 1030 The Voice. I'm Steve Rivera alongside my co-host Jay Gonzalez. Great interview, I thought.
I thought that was great. We've been all over the board talking about who's affected by this. From, again, Julius Holt, youth football, up to, Dave Hickey, even, Terry Francona, Steve Kerr, NBA, Major League Baseball, all that stuff. And, it's different everywhere you go. When you're talking about, the NBA and baseball, you're talking about guys who are getting paid. And so they're going to be in a little different ballpark than, a youth football kid or a high school kid and the things that they're willing to risk or not willing to risk because of their age and parents and all that kind of thing.
And you just mentioned parents. I'm curious because I've always said this, and I honestly mean this. The best thing to happen or the worst thing to happen to kids are parents, especially at the thing. And you coached.
Often.
So you coached. I was wondering how you felt coaching with that experience.
It was, I had some experiences with some parents all the way down to Little League. Because I coached my son.
That's probably the worst.
I started coaching when my son Adam was 5 years old and he started playing t-ball, and my coaching career began that year, and I coached all the way until my daughter Alana finished her senior year in softball. I was the head baseball coach. I was an assistant, then the head baseball coach at St. Gregory. I was an assistant softball coach at St. Gregory. Coached them through Little League and all that kind of stuff. And the parents that you deal with all along the way, you deal with a lot of good ones, and a large majority are good ones, but the bad ones that you run across are the ones that you remember the most.
Oh, sure.
And so, fortunately, at St. Gregory's, such a small school, there wasn't ever an issue of why isn't my kid playing, because everybody that came out for a sport got to play because you just barely had enough athletes to field a team. But the Little League was tough.
Oh, sure.
There were a lot of times that it was tough. Even coaches that I coached with and coached against were a little dicey for me. And I was always the guy, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I was always the guy who just wanted the kids to have a great experience.
And that's how it should be.
I mean, yes, you wanted to win games and you wanted them to be competitive. You wanted them to learn about winning and how important that was. But to me, competing was always the best thing. And I wanted every kid to get a chance to compete. And yeah, so, I can't even imagine where some of this is going right now. I'd like to think that for the most part, parents are going to be cautious with their kids. But I'm telling you, I'm certain there are some dads out there, and I'm going to pick on the dads, who believe, like we've seen all over the news, that COVID is a hoax or not as real as it is, and who are saying, I want my kid to play.
Right.
And I just don't know, what the coaches are going to be dealing with when it comes to that.
No question. I'm not a baseball dad. I'm a soccer dad. So I've seen it, hated it. I wrote about it.
Yeah.
And it's not just here, obviously. It's all over the world. It's everywhere. And you've seen some bad footage, bad looks on parents who go out and fight.
Yeah.
Can't take no for an answer. Sit there and look pretty. Just do that.
Yeah.
Just watch.
On top of being a coach in Little League, I was an umpire.
Oh,
and
that's worse.
My God.
That's worse. You can't see straight.
The stuff you hear from behind you, and I'm like, hey, mister, do you know that your kid is 10 years old?
Right.
And you know what? He's not going to the major leagues, so just calm down.
Let me ask you the best thing you heard while you maybe had to make you laugh.
Well, one was I heard from another coach, and it was one of those. I was umpiring home plate, and
your face mask.
I got the mask on, and I had just gone there to watch my kid play because my son's team was playing, and I wasn't coaching that particular team, and I just wanted to see him play, and they needed an umpire.
Oh, jeez!
So they pulled me out of the seats to umpire because they knew I had done some other umpiring, and I was there, so they asked me to umpire, and a pitch comes just on the outside corner, and my son's team was batting just off the outside corner. I called it a ball, and the coach said, I can't remember his exact words. It was basically, you called that a ball because you need to call this straight or something like that. It was one. It's one of those things that you've seen in Major League Baseball. I ripped off the mask. I started storming over to the dugout. I'm yelling at the guy, and I'm probably yelling at him louder than I should have for a Little League game. But I just walked up to him and told him if I heard another word, not only was I kicking him out of the game, I was kicking him out of the park. And the thing was, he was a friend of mine.
Well, maybe that's why you were able to do that.
He was a guy that I had known for 100 years.
Right.
In fact, I think you probably know him. I'm just not going to give you his name.
Tell me later.
I'll tell you later. And I screamed at him, and that was it.
That was good.
But I felt, I got put in that position.
Yeah, sure. You're helping out.
Then he calls me out.
Yeah, maybe he did it well because you guys are friends.
On a strike. I should have thrown him out of the game for arguing balls and strikes, but I didn't.
But Mr. Tom?
So I quit playing baseball at 12 years old because there was not much call for a light-hitting defensive catcher when you're 12. But I wanted to play hockey year-round. Hockey was my first love, and so I wanted to do that. So I became an umpire. And that was one of the ways I made money in the summer. So I was an umpire when I was 13 years old, and I quit when I was 14 because the parents were absolutely merciless and made me absolutely miserable.
Oh, sure.
It was terrible.
It ain't worth the money.
As a 13-year-old kid, even.
Yeah, it ain't worth the money.
It's thankless. I've read all of Ron Luciano's books about being a pro umpire, and if you haven't read those, by the way, please look them up. They're hilarious baseball books. But my goodness, and all minor league and high school referees, it's not worth the money for what you go through. So it takes a very special person to even do that, and it's incredible to me. And they don't get enough credit.
Oh, you have to want to do it for the love of doing it. If you're going to be a youth umpire, from high school down, college umps and professional umps, they get paid plenty.
Pretty well, yeah.
But if you're umpiring or reffing high school football, basketball, baseball, whatever, you're doing it because you love doing that, and you're doing it for the kids. And that's why I umpired Little League. I got to umpire All Stars, and it was fun. I had a great time, and I enjoyed it for the most part. But yeah, there were times that I just thought, what am I doing out here? But I will.
And how much did you get paid? How much did you get paid?
For Little League, you don't get paid.
Oh,
you're a
what the
volunteer, no
heck are
matter
you
what.
thinking?
Even All Star games, I coached. I umpired All Stars, which is
yeah, big deal.
You're a volunteer, so I never got paid for umpiring or anything. I did referee City League basketball one year. And
that must have been torture too.
It was bad, and the reason I didn't do it, I stopped doing it, was at the end of the year, I had heard that a ref got a gun pulled on him in a parking lot. And I said, well, okay, I'm not going to be doing that anymore because there's too many times I'm walking to a dark parking lot at a high school gym.
It's the sports arena in L.A.?
Yeah. So, it's just, I loved the coaching. And I loved being a part of my kids. I think my kid will tell you, I was harder on him than on anybody else. I leaned towards being that, a little tougher on him because I didn't want anybody to think, my kids were getting any kind of preferential treatment. But I did coach with dads who did give their kids preferential treatment. And I hated that.
They weren't any good?
Well, they were good, but they weren't as good.
Yeah.
I hated that.
Yeah. Okay. Tom, did you want to say one?
I have one last point. Also, if you're the parent, the obnoxious parent, the screaming parent, the whatever parent, you're embarrassing your kid.
Oh, no question.
Oh, you totally are.
And if you ask your kid and they tell you no, well, of course they're going to tell you no, but you're still embarrassing your kid.
No question.
I can remember to this day, I might not even remember the kids' names on my teams that I played with anymore, but their parents I remember and will always remember and pledge not to be like.
Yeah.
Right.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, no question. And I'm sure, like you say now, when there's either going to be sports or not going to be sports, and there's no real right decision to be made because it depends what side you're on.
Yeah. Well, and Tom, Tom makes a good point. I mean, there were a couple times that my son's games, I had to tell my dad to calm down. Dad, he's 10. Okay, he's 10.
Right.
Just calm down a little bit. Leave the 13-year-old umpire alone. He's doing the best that he can. Relax.
Right. And what did your dad say?
He gave me that look.
Yeah.
That look, because up until my dad was about. Probably a couple of years before he died, I thought he could still take me. So
Well,
I just
they give you the look.
But I'd have to, Dad, you got to calm down.
Give you the look, and it's over.
Adam's 10, the umpire's 12.
Yeah, and we're going to go to McDonald's afterwards.
Exactly, but all great times, all great. And again, I always loved it. I always loved the coaching. I loved the just being involved in all that because I grew up playing all those sports and I knew how important it was, and it was a big deal to them. And I think my kids liked having me around. I think
if you weren't that guy,
they never said they didn't.
If you weren't that guy,
they never said they didn't. And going on, once you're in high school, going on the bus and going to out of town games and overnight tournaments and in Phoenix and those kinds of things. And some of my best times with my kids were those games. My two best kids sporting moments, one with my daughter, one with my son. And it was when my son's team in his freshman year in high school, we got to the state semifinals, and that was great. And then my daughter, she we got to the state tournament and we won a game, and she pitched a game and she struck out 15, and we won a game and got to the next round. And those were two moments that as a coach that were the best for me.
Yeah, no, and you were a part of it. That's nice. That's nice.
Just being a part of all.
Let me transition just real quick because we hadn't talked about it. There is some word that maybe the NBA is going to be in trouble.
Well, there's a lot of that, but and I think Major League Baseball's in a little bit of trouble too.
Yeah,
I think there's a chance that as we go along and more things are happening, we may be. I'm not sure we're 100% certain that either of those things are going to happen because of just what's going on. I mean, think about it. Florida is one of the hottest, spots for COVID right now, and their governor just today said we're not shutting down.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they're not.
No, they're not going to do anything to back off the opening that they've done.
See, that's how are we
Makes
going
no
to get
sense
through?
to me.
How are we going to get through all this?
How are we going to get there? Exactly.
As I put on my mask to get out
Exactly.
of the show.
Exactly.
Good show
I
today.
don't know how we're going to get there.
Good show today. I know we have just a few seconds left. Good show today. Thank you, Tom. Some old
Always happy to be here.
Tom,
Steve.
we appreciate you always.
spinning the tunes.
And I'm loving the boss gags on the way out.
Yes.
Nice.
Thanks you, Jay.
All right.
Thank you, Jay.
We'll see everybody tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks. Good day.
Have a great evening.
KVOI Cortero, AM 1030, the voice